There's a term to the table, and I want to gauge whether you're aware of it or not. Racial fetishes. Apparently half of Brits don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? Get in touch with us on 81869 and join in our conversation. There are new findings from dating app Bumble, which say 1 in 3 people have experienced racial fetishes, discrimination and microaggressions when online dating, and say it's being sexually into someone's race. So they found that mixed race people are most likely to experience this. So have you ever felt like someone was into you just because of your race? How did it make you feel? Get in touch with us, 03459440445. I've got creative director Venetia Vergela and Georgina Lawton, author of Raceless, to talk about their dating experiences as mixed race women. Hello, welcome both of you.
Hello,
Hi.
thanks for having us.
No, pleasure having you both. This term, racial fetishes, it's not probably widely known. Am I right in that?
Yeah, it's quite hard to know what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, is that Georgina?
Yes.
Hi, Georgina. Yeah. What do you make of that, the findings from Bumble, first of all?
Yeah, I thought they were really interesting. It says a third of people have been victims of fetishisation on dating apps, and mixed people are most likely to experience fetishisation, but, most people don't actually know what it is. So I think, it's interesting to have these conversations and important so we can actually work out what it is and then put a stop to it.
Yeah, Venetia?
I totally agree. I think there's also sometimes sort of going through it yourself, you have moments where you're like sort of questioning it, and it comes in the little nuances of the microaggressions where you're just like, oh, am I making this, mountain out of a molehill? Was that, a slight jab there? So you kind of have moments where you're sort of questioning yourself, like, I don't want to seem like I'm overreacting here. So you just kind of have moments of doubt because, fetishism is such a new term, and it's something that's really sort of only entering the mainstream now. So people aren't totally aware of, how they're moving and how to sort of receive it all.
Have either of you had any experiences on dating apps like this where people have asked such questions?
Yeah, do you know what? I've been called exotic, on more than one occasion over the past few years. And, this probably comes from a place of someone trying to pay me a compliment or thinking that it's a positive thing to say.
Yeah.
But of course, one person's exotic is somebody else's every day. And we have to understand that when it's black and brown people who are on the receiving end of those comments, it's coming from a place of ignorance, and it's coming from a place of, inheriting these really boring colonial stereotypes whereby, the white mainstream view is that of a white person and everything else is other or exotic. And I think, it's really, really difficult to explain to people why that's offensive and why that, is affecting us day to day.
Yeah, Venetia, what about some of the questions that people ask? Because that's something we need to be aware of and like Georgina said, to educate people on, really.
Exactly. I think one of the experiences I have, one guy said to me, he kind of emphasized, and I think sort of again, knowledge and sort of have this knowledge now, and you look back at moments and you think, wow, actually, he was actually, fetishizing me. There was one guy, he mentioned quite a lot that he liked darker features, and at the time I was like, I kind of let it go. I didn't really think about it too much, but he kind of brought it up a couple of times. Then looking back, I was like, oh, actually, again, it's one of those things when you start to talk about it a little bit more and you have the knowledge as a mixed race woman, you can then sort of now, moving forward, you can kind of know when to draw a line and help communicate and educate the population.
Yeah, I'm going to bring a bit of my own experience too. When I was younger, I don't know if people found me slightly ambiguous in terms of my skin tone, but they would say that, oh, you look maybe South American, or you look a bit Greek, or you look a bit, I don't know, Latin or whatever, and they would try to say it in a positive light, as if to say, well, actually my own features which they would expect me to have being Indian were not, if that makes sense. I don't know if that resonates with yourselves, but yeah.
Yeah, I think totally. Definitely as mixed people, and I think we have a lot of privilege in having lighter skin tones than other people in our community, and being told that you don't really look fully black or fully Asian. That's supposed to be a compliment as well, and of course it's not. But that's definitely something I can relate to.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think also when it comes to sort of being mixed, I also wanted to bring up the topic of when people hear mixed race, I think people sort of jump automatically to the black and white mix. And I'm half Indian, half Filipino, and people forget even within, our own racial groups, there are even more mixes in there. And, at times definitely growing up, especially in the dating scene, I feel like people kind of want to work out where you're from. You you can't really see me, but I'm doing that sort of like air quotation mark of like where you're from.
Where are you really from sort of question.
Exactly. And I think I am Asian because I am, but within the Asian group, there's different types of Asian. And I feel like, you know, you have to sort of like, you know, you can't really answer that in one word. So you kind of force yourself into this little box to make conversations easier in a way.
Yeah, if you're listening at home at 81869, get involved in the conversation. Now, what do you, I mean, some people might, the question to throw out is maybe, is it always a bad thing? Some people might think that, okay, I have a particular type or I'm attracted to a certain type of people. And some people maybe take it as a compliment if you say that, oh, I think you come from here or there. And some people actually are flattered by that.
Yeah, do you know, it's up to every individual how they receive those comments. You know, I'm never going to sit here and say that that should be offensive, because what's offensive to one person is not offensive to another. But we need to remember that no one's preferences are born in a vacuum. And if we look at the history of, you know, why black and brown people are in this country, of course, we're here because we were forcibly brought here, a lot of us, hundreds of years ago. And I think if we don't unpack, you know, the way in which black and brown bodies have served as, you know, a board onto which the white imagination can project its fantasies. If we don't actually look at that history, then we can't actually really understand why these comments are offensive for most of us. But of course, some people don't see it like that, and they will take it as a compliment. But that's, you know, it's up to them.
Yeah, I'd love to get guys' perspectives on this as well, because we saw, I don't know if you saw, you know, Asim Chowdhury, the comedian, he plays Chabadi G. He put something out recently. We actually talked about it on the phone in a way. He was just having a bit of fun saying, oh, this is, if you wanted to ask out a Pakistani girl, this is how you do it, or an Asian girl. And he's like, you know, saying, oh, you know, I think you look Latin, I think you look like Shakira. And, you know, the girl was getting super flattered, and he was just having a bit of fun with it. But it's interesting when you have those experiences. So guys, I'm just wondering whether what their perspectives are on it when you're trying to chat a girl up, or you're interested in a girl, whether you think that saying something like that is actually going to flatter a girl, whether what the reaction's been actually from the opposite sex as well. And I'm just curious, isn't it? There's so much you can sort of extrapolate from it all. I wonder what it's like on dating apps though. Have you guys found conversations on there people are quite direct and will ask questions like that?
Well, I just wanted to sort of bring up this topic because I was like the first generation to jump onto dating apps, and I was 19. I remember it clear as day. I was 19 at university and Tinder first dropped. And at the time, the sort of ideal status quo of beautiful and pretty was this Victoria's Secret model archetype. And I remember going on these apps and just in general day-to-day sort of dating life outside of the internet, and just knowing that I was still getting the attention, but I wasn't necessarily the girl you would bring home, right? And then fast forward to this, you know, to 2021, where the archetype of what's beautiful and pretty is this sort of ethnically ambiguous Nicole Scherzinger, Kardashian, slim, thick look. All of a sudden, I'm getting a load of swipes right. I'm all of a sudden the it girl. And I've noticed, like, I witnessed my own sort of like shift in being quite popular and quite desirable purely because the status quo now is arguably a person who looks like me, which is a little bit more ethnically ambiguous, a lighter skin tone. And that sort of blew my mind because, you know, whatever the media deems pretty then sort of bleeds out into the rest of society. And I've noticed that, you know, back when I was 19, I wasn't necessarily desirable. Now in 2021, I am, and I'm getting way more swipes right on dating apps.
Oh, interesting. I've got a text which has come in which says, it's an anonymous one. It says that some people are just so sensitive. How else can we describe someone else's looks, Georgina?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a funny one because people are going to think that it isn't a offensive thing, but you know, like, we have to ask, what is it that you find about black and brown people's, like, what is it about us that you find so attractive? Because we come in a range of different shades and sizes, and amongst, you know, all the people who could be identified as black or brown or Asian, there's a huge, you know, diversity of features and appearances and personalities. So it's weird when you just reduce us to a type or a skin tone. You reduce us to a monolith and you think it's a compliment. Like, it's just not. Like, people want to be seen and they want to be heard fully in their interpersonal relationships. And I don't think, you know, saying that you only go for brown women or you only go for black women, that's not a compliment. It will never be a compliment to me personally anyway. So I think people really need to get that into their heads. And it's really important that, you know, we're talking about these things, and it's great that we've got an app like Bumble that's leading the research, because a few years ago these conversations weren't being had.
And what about also within our own communities? Because we're exposed to such multicultural societies now, you know, we might be attracted to, like you say, somebody from one background, but then you might one background, but then you might one background, but then you might one background, but then then you might one background, but then you might one background, but then you might